Now, Zimbabwe's President Robert Mugabe is reportedly fighting for his life in a Singapore hospital. It's believed that the 88-year-old dictator, who's ruled Zimbabwe for the best part of 3 decades, is suffering from prostate cancer. But senior members of his ruling party deny he's sick. Joining me now is international relations expert Robert Patman. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, Rachel.
Why is it difficult to find out the truth? Why won't anyone from Mugabe's party, ZANU-PF, confirm that he is in fact gravely ill and dying?
Well, Mr Mugabe is basically a totalitarian or dictatorship in Zimbabwe, and Mr Mugabe personifies the strength of the ruling party, and I think many of his colleagues, while privately would like him to stand down, that has been the position for some time, haven't got the courage to say to his face. And I think every effort has been made to maintain the possibility that he will recover, but all the indications suggest that he's had prostate cancer since about 2008 and that it's spread to other organs, according to a document released by WikiLeaks in late 2011.
If Mugabe should die, in the next 24 hours, in the next week, in the next month, what would you anticipate would happen within Zimbabwe?
Well, he has, according to reports, made transitional arrangements. He's agreed to transfer power in the event of his incapacity or even death to his defence minister and former intelligence chief, Emerson Mnangagwa. Mnangagwa is a feared figure in Zimbabwe. He was associated with the brutality, indeed orchestrated the brutality against the movement for democratic change following the 2008 presidential election. He was also associated with crushing the opposition ZAPU party in the 1980s. And so the thought of him replacing Mugabe, I think, causes some concern. But I think, given the fact the changes which are occurring globally, and not least in the Middle East, I think we can't rule out the prospect that even if this authoritarian regime tries to reform itself in a post-Mugabe era, it will lose control of the situation, and we may have a situation where more and more people begin to press demands in a society which has economically underperformed and remains politically underdeveloped.
OK, we know that Prime Minister Morgan Tsvangirai, we just saw some footage of him a moment ago, he's virtually impotent under Mugabe. He's waiting in the wings. What chance is it all feasible that if Mugabe was to die, that Tsvangirai could take over even as acting president?
Well, certainly you're right. Tsvangirai has been very much overshadowed in this national unity government by Mugabe and his henchmen. But I think given the fall of Mugabe, we could be in a situation where Tsvangirai feels he's got the political initiative. There have been some interesting developments in Zimbabwe. Recently, about 2 months ago, a number of people were arrested by holding seminars and meetings about the implications for Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, what was happening with the emergence of democracy in the Middle East. So, and there are a number of, it's not just Zimbabwe, but there are a number of African countries, about 5, which have leaders which have been in power more than 25 years. Mugabe has been in power for close to 32 years. I don't think you can rule out, Rachel, the situation that when Mugabe goes, there will be quite far-reaching change that none of us can really envisage at the moment, given the lack of change in the recent past.
It's such a tragedy, isn't it? Mugabe in his day made Zimbabwe the breadbasket of Africa, such a prosperous country. What is his legacy now, though, good and bad? What has he done to Zimbabwe? Well,
I think it's mixed, and that's probably being kind. His greatest and positive legacy, which has perhaps helped him stay in power, has been, well, first of all, he earned the reputation of being a courageous person when he was a liberation fighter. And then, of course, he participated, that was when the Rhodesia was in being, before Zimbabwe became an independent country. And then, of course, he helped negotiate the emergence of Zimbabwe in the Lancaster House negotiations in 1980 with the British and the Americans. But since he's been leader, after a brief opening period where he preached moderation, he has carried out a policy of annexing farms owned by white farmers, and far from redistributing wealth, the gap between the haves and the have-nots has actually increased in Zimbabwe, with party officials having disproportionate wealth. And I think it's sad that Zimbabwe, far from being the breadbasket of Southern Africa, which it should be, is an impoverished country which has to import grain now in order to feed its population, and of course its economy is in a terrible state. Inflation rages in high digits, and it is really underperforming. I think one good thing we can look forward to in the post-Mugabe era, whatever the political shape it will take, I think is some sort of economic resurgence in the self-confidence of the country.
Indeed, indeed. All right, international relations expert Robert Patman, very much appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
Thank you.